It was a beautiful day in Omundo village, a small village in the heart of eastern Nigeria. It was very early in the morning, just around sunrise. Some women were seen in groups pounding yams with large pestles and mortars. Some stood close to large cooking pots by open fireside, stirring the food they were cooking with large wooden spoons. The women chatted happily amongst themselves as they cooked and pounded. The air was thick with excitement. The atmosphere was joyful. The smell of delicious ofe onugbu soup filled the air. The sound of pounding mortars and clattering pots could be heard even from a distance. The women had come to help Obianuju's mother prepare the food for Obianuju's big day. But the day was Obianuju's traditional wedding ceremony. Obianuju, seated in her room and dressed in a beautiful traditional Igbo attire with expensive coral beads, was beaming with smiles and excitement. She could hear the noise and laughter of the women outside, and the sweet smell of the food made her drift into a deep, happy thought, as she could not help but think that in a few hours she would be celebrating a traditional marriage to Jidena, the love of her life. Obianuju was not just happy, she also felt proud within her. Jidena is the kind of man every single girl in Omundo village desires. In fact, the majority of the girls in Omundo had wished he would propose to either of them, and she had won his heart, making her the envy of the other girls. The hours rolled faster, and soon it was midday, the time designated for the traditional wedding ceremony to begin. Villagers in colorful attires gathered in Mazi Uchendu's compound to witness Obianuju and Jidena be joined together the traditional way, just according to their customs. Some of the guests chatted and whispered happily amongst themselves as they waited and anticipated the arrival of the groom. An hour 30 minutes later, the guests began to grow impatient as Jidena and his people were yet to arrive. But it was not just the guests who were impatient. Mazi Uchendu, Obianuju's father, was also growing impatient and angry. What does that young man think he is? And what does he even think he has? How can he have the effrontery to keep me and our entire guests waiting? Mazi Uchendu growled angrily, even as his wife tries to calm him down and begs him to exercise some patience. Obianuju likewise was also growing impatient and worried in her room. Calm down, Obianuju. He will be here soon. Ada, one of Obianuju's friends, said to her to calm her down. But he's your husband already. You two are a couple already in the eyes of the law. And all of this is just a ceremony because your parents demanded it. So stop worrying, Machi. Another of Obianuju's friends said to her. Machi and Ada were both with Obianuju in the room. Machi was right. Obianuju and her groom Jidena are actually a couple and are to be considered husband and wife in the eyes of the law. This is because 2 months before this time, Obianuju and Jidena had a civil court wedding. Jidena, a fine man, is also from Omundo village. 9 years ago, Jidena got a scholarship to go study medicine and surgery in the UK. Jidena was Obianuju's senior in secondary school. Jidena was a very intelligent student and he often put Obianuju through in areas where she was having difficulties back then. When Jidena came back to Nigeria and to Omundo village after his long stay in the UK, he asked Obianuju to marry him, having had to suppress his affection for her for a long time because they were younger then and were both in school. Obianuju accepted Jidena's proposal because she felt the same way about him. Jidena's stay in Nigeria was meant to be short because he was required to resume work in the hospital he worked in the UK. He wanted to take Obianuju with him to the UK, so he and her agreed not to do the usual frivolities and party ceremonies that comes with getting married in Africa. Only the customary dowry was paid, and then they proceeded to have a court wedding, which was also necessary, especially since Jidena wanted Obianuju to go with him to the UK. Obianuju's parents, Mazi Uchendu and his wife, were not pleased with this. Would think that you had probably gotten pregnant out of wedlock, and that is why only the dowry payment was done and rushed, they said. They were almost not going to accept just the dowry and had insisted that Jidena and Obianuju should openly celebrate their marriage. But Jidena and Obianuju and one of Obianuju's aunts, her father's younger sister, who stayed in the city, had pleaded with their sense of reasoning. Aren't you happy that the young man is taking your daughter with him abroad? He has done the fundamentals, so let him be, Obianuju's aunt told Obianuju's father before he finally agreed. Then, just as they were preparing to travel out, Jidena received an email from the hospital management that they have granted his initial request of a longer leave duration, the one he had initially requested for. Jidena was happy that he gets to spend more time with his family and friends in Nigeria. Then, he also decided that they should have a traditional wedding celebration just as Obianuju's parents had wanted. He and Obianuju agreed to do so to make Obianuju's parents happy since they now have more time to spend in Nigeria. The guests' impatience continued to grow, and so was Obianuju's parents, especially her father. Just then, Jidena's family arrived. They carried some traditional ceremonial items with them: palm wine, local gin, some tuber of yams, a cock, amongst other things. However, Jidena was not with them. Why are you just coming now? And where is your son Jidena? Mazi Uchendu asked Chief Udo, Jidena's uncle, after calling him aside. I apologize for our lateness. Jidena would soon join us soon. He is right behind us as at when we left our house, Chief Udo replied. But another 1 hour after Jidena's family arrived, Jidena was yet to join them. By this time, the majority of the guests had grown weary of sitting and waiting, and some of them had taken a walk to ease off their desperation and anticipation, thereby leaving the once full compound looking scanty. Zilshendu's anger was on a high level at this time. Obianuju paced back and forth in her room with worry. She kept dialing Jidena's number, which she had been doing in the past 1 hour, but his line remained switched off, causing her to panic and worry even more. Chief Udo had lied when he told Mazi Uchendu that Jidena was coming right behind him. The truth was that Jidena had drove to town the previous evening and said he wanted to get something. However, he did not return that evening, but had called that he would be back in the village the next morning, early enough and ready for his wedding ceremony. But Jidena did not return early as he promised. Chief Udo and the other members of the family decided to go over to the wedding venue as they were already running late and with the hope that Judena would join them there. Then, while they all waited, a young man drove into the compound, looking sad with a sorrowful face. The young man is Jidena's cousin, and his name is Ugonna. Jidena left. He said he's no longer interested in the wedding, nor is he interested in Obianuju. He's on his way back to the UK as we speak. Ugonna informed Obianuju's parents and Jidena's family. Ugonna, as earlier mentioned, is Jidena's cousin and had went with him to town the previous evening. I tried to stop him and pleaded with him, but he wouldn't listen. His mind was made up, Ugonna said. Obianuju was devastated. She locked herself in her room for days, drenching herself in tears. Everyone in the village spoke about the event for weeks. The topic of a groom abandoning his bride and not showing up for their wedding was a hot topic and gist that the villagers could not ignore. Some felt pity for Obianuju, while some believed that she may have used a spell on him to force him to marry her, and that the spell had now wear off. 2 months later, Obianuju discovered that she was pregnant. She and Jidena had consummated their union after their court wedding. As the months progressed, and as Obianuju's pregnant belly grew, Obianuju could not help but feel more saddened. Her pregnancy would have been a thing of joy, and it would have been considered by everyone as a huge blessing if she was in Jidena's house as his wife. The pain of Jidena abandoning her still lingered in her heart. I regret accepting that you married that man. If only you had accepted to marry Nonso when he proposed, all of this would have been avoided and you would have been in your marital home long before Jidena came back from abroad to deceive you. Her father kept saying. Nonso was a young man from the next town Mazi Uchendu had wanted his daughter to marry. So, he seized every opportunity to talk down on Obianuju after what happened. Only Obianuju's mother supported and consoled her, and so did Ugonna. I am sorry about what happened. I didn't know my cousin planned to do what he did to you. I pray that you find a place in your heart to forgive him someday, Ugonna said. You can count on me to offer every help and support I can. I am here whenever you need me. I won't let you go through this all by yourself, he told Obianuju. And so, Ugonna came by all the time. He gave Obianuju money and brought basic household needs with him for her in every of his visits. And when he discovered that Obianuju was pregnant, he visited more regularly and paid the bills for her antenatal. When it was due time, Obianuju delivered a baby. It was a baby boy. The baby was a splintering image of Jidena. Everyone said that they would have considered him a reincarnate of Jidena if it had been that Jidena had died. The whole village could not stop talking about how Obianuju's son looked so much like his father Jidena. This, however, caused more pain in Obianuju's heart, as her son's striking resemblance with Jidena made it more difficult not to think about him. Ugonna treated Obianuju's son as if he was his own. His visits to Obianuju's house was even more constant with the arrival of Obianuju's son. He showered the baby with gifts of clothes and money, and then he would spend hours playing with him. Ugonna is in love with you, but he does not know how to tell you, Ada said to Obianuju one day. I agree with Ada, Obianuju's mother caught him as she came out from inside the house. He has been been by your side since his cousin abandoned you and had been good to you and your son, not relenting for one day in the past 3 years, her mother and her dad told her. Is there a possibility that you may also like him and give him a chance? Ada asked, searching Obianuju's eyes for the answer to the question she just asked. I do not know. Besides, that would be absurd because technically I am still his cousin's wife. Neither Jidena nor any member of his family has come to demand for the dowry Jidena paid. And neither has the courts dissolved our marriage, Obianuju replied. She told them that she was not ready to commit her heart to anyone else, not to Ugonna and not to another man. She promised, however, that when her heart accepts another man, she would request that Jidena's people to come take back the dowry and would also summon the courage to approach the courts to dissolve her marriage with Jidena, seeing that he had abandoned her for years now. After the birth of her son, Obianuju had continued with her nursing school. Ugonna had ensured that she returned back to nursing school and also supported her with the fees. Now, Obianuju had graduated. She got a job posting in the city of Enugu and had to move to the city. Her son Nkem was attached to her, so even though Obianuju left him with her mother in the village, she would often visit him most weekends and sometimes take him with her to the city to spend the weekend. One day, Obianuju had gone to the mall in her area to pick up some few items and toiletries. Nkem was with her that weekend, so she went with him. Immediately she got into the mall, she felt pressed and decided to use the restroom. She left her son Nkem with one of the attendants in the mall before rushing off to the restroom. Just then, a man also entered the mall holding a beautiful toy car. He had bought the toy car from the mall the previous day and had noticed when he got home that the battery area for the car was rusted. So, he was there to return it and demand for a change. Little Nkem was fascinated by the toy car when he saw it. So, as the man entered the mall with the toy while Obianuju walked into the restroom, Nkem came down immediately from the small chair the attendant had placed him and ran to meet the man and also started to rub his little palm over the toy car. The man was a friendly man and much more friendly with children. So, he smiled and let Nkem admire the toy. Nkem followed him as he walked into the management's office to lay his complaints about the toy. Obianuju came back from the restroom and returned to pick back her son. Ma'am, your husband went with him, the attendant she had left him with told her. Hello? Excuse me? Which husband? Obianuju asked, looking confused. Ma'am, your husband. He entered just right after you, and your son recognized him and followed him, the attendant explained. You must be joking. I don't have any husband, and I came here all alone with my son. So what are you talking about? Obianuju snapped. The attendant stared in confusion. She could swear that the man was Nkem's father. The striking resemblance between them is unmistaken. And then Nkem had jumped down and went to him on his own. Then was she supposed to know that the man and Nkem were not related? The attendant thought in her heart. Please provide my son, no. Provide my son. How can you let a child I keep under your care be taken by another man? Nothing must happen to my child, though. Nothing must happen to my child. Else, I will bring down this building, Obianuju said, shouting on top of her voice as the attendant ran to look for the man. She remembered that the man had come to lay a complaint, so she ran towards the manager's office. while Obianuju and one other attendant followed behind. As the attendant was about to open the manager's door, the man came out, holding little Nkem, who was still all smiles. "Hello, madam. You must be his mother, right? Funny that we kind of look alike, and people thinks he's my son," the man said, smiling as he stretched out his hands, extending a handshake to Obianuju. Obianuju almost collapsed. She staggered and was going to fall, but for the attendant who had held her. Obianuju stared at the man before her in disbelief and knew immediately that he was Jidena. Jidena. Jidena, she called. "Oh, sorry. I think you must be mistaken, ma'am. My name is John, not Jidena," the man replied. "Have we met before?" he asked. You couldn't believe her ears. Was Jidena denying knowing her? He had abandoned her and now is denying knowing her? Could he? Could he be so heartless and unmoving? Obianuju thought in her heart. Tears began to stream down her cheeks as she struggled to fight the emotion that was building up in her. It was that of anger, hurt, and so much pain. The man, Mr. John, as he introduced himself, stood there, staring at Obianuju with confusion, as he wondered what it was that had made her start crying. Obianuju braced up herself, dried her tears, took her son from the man, and walked out of the mall, leaving everyone staring in wonderment. That evening, when Ugonna came to visit, Obianuju told him of the incident at the mall. It could be Jidena's mere look-alike. Jidena vowed to never return to Nigeria or to come anywhere close to you, Ugonna told her. "But what if he had returned, just that he still doesn't want to associate with me?" Obianuju said, strongly believing that it was Jidena she saw at the mall. No, it couldn't be him. You said he acted as though he does not know you and had never met you before, right? What if it is true? He may actually have never met you before. It could be Jidena's mere look-alike," Ugonna said, urging Obianuju to forget about the man. But Obianuju could not, no matter how she tried. Something in her kept telling her that the man who claimed to be Mr. John is her Jidena. Obianuju decided that though Jidena may not want to be with her anymore, she was going to look for him and get him to explain to her why he had deceived her into marrying him and then abandoned her afterwards. She went back to the mall the next day and inquired from the management if they had the contact details of Mr. John. The management agreed that they do, saying that Mr. John was one of their regular customers, but maintained that they could not give her his contacts for security reasons. Obianuju left, but returned back the following day, still begging that they give her the man's contacts. Still, the management at the mall refused, and Obianuju left and never returned again. However, 5 weeks later, Obianuju went to the mall to shop for some items, and there she found Mr. John waiting to speak with her. Apparently, he had also been looking for Obianuju. On the second day that Obianuju had gone to request for his contacts, he had also went looking for her because he also got questions. He was told that she had also been there to request for his contact details and had left 20 minutes before his arrival. He urged them to give her his contact if she comes asking for it again, and to also give him a call whenever she comes around. But Obianuju never went back asking for his contact again. In fact, she hadn't been to the mall in 5 weeks until now. And now she was there but only to shop for items. The manager called Mr. John to inform him that Obianuju was in the mall, and luckily, Mr. John was in the neighborhood, so he drove immediately to the mall. Mr. John told Obianuju that he had also been wanting to speak with her. He told her that 4 years ago he was found lying unconscious in a bush by a family who were on their way back home. He told her that the family rescued him and took him to the hospital. However, when he woke up and regained consciousness, he could not remember who he was. He had lost his memory. It was the family who had rescued him that told him that they found him lying half dead in the bush. Because he could not remember anything, they didn't know whom to contact. And for fear that whomever had shot him might come to attack him again, they also decided not to go to the police. Mr. John took Obianuju to his family, the family who had found and rescued him. They confirmed his story, giving more details about the events of that day. They also brought out the shirts he was wearing on that day, which had old blood stains. They had kept it with them in a safe place for a day like this. Obianuju recognized the shirts. She had given Jidena the shirt as a gift, so she could tell the shirt when she saw it. Mr. John explained that he was at the mall that day to return the faulty toy car he had bought for his nephew. But after he returned home that day, after the incident at the mall, he believes that Obianuju was someone who knew him from the past. And that was why he had also been looking for her for answers and hoped that she would tell him about his past because he remembers nothing. Obianuju, in tears, told him about their time in secondary school in Omundo village, his travel to the UK for studies, and all about their marriage. Ugonna, your cousin, said you were not interested in having me as your wife anymore and that you had returned to the UK, Obianuju told him. Well, I cannot remember my past, but I did be a fool if truly I said that and had left you. I am sorry for all the pain my disappearance caused you, Mr. John. Or do we now say Jidena? Said to Obianuju. Obianuju told her parents, her friends Ada Umachi and Ugonna about her meeting with Mr. John when she returned home that evening. Hobby, don't tell me you believe the story of a stranger. That man could be a fraudster who is about to use his resemblance with Nkem as a tool to gain your trust and defraud you, Ugonna said. The following week, Mr. John decided to travel to Omundo village as he hopes that it may help him remember his past. He begged Obianuju to take him. Obianuju and John decided to stop first at Jidena's family compound. As soon as they stepped out of the car, Ugonna was the first person to see them. Seeing Ugonna triggered a crisis in Mr. John's brain. He held his head and began to scream, after which he passed out. He was rushed to the village health center, and an hour later, he woke up and was able to remember who he was. He is Jidena. Jidena remembered the incident of that night. He told everyone that Ugonna had convinced him to get a painting of Obianuju done in town as a gift to her. Unknown to him, that it was Ugonna's plot to lure him out of the village and to kill him. Jidena was an orphan who was taken in by his uncle, Chief Udo. Chief Udo is Ugonna's father. Jidena was a bright child and excelled in his academics, which earned him the scholarship to study abroad. This made Ugonna jealous, who harbored a secret resentment towards him. Ugonna had also liked Obianuju right from secondary school, but he was too timid to express his feelings for her. small jealous when Jidenna came back and married Obianuju. Moved by his deep jealousy, he lured Jidenna out of the village and shot him straight right in his chest. I hate you, Jidenna. I hate you. I want to see you have the life I dreamt of, and now you are about to take away the woman I love. I am sorry, Jidenna, but I have to eliminate you for me to shine, Ugonna said to Jidenna before he had shot him that night. It was the flashback of this scene that caused Jidenna to suffer a crisis. Immediately he set his eyes on Ugonna. Well, fortunately, he was able to regain his consciousness as a result of that. Ugonna ran away when Jidenna was rushed to the health center. He packed a few of his belongings and left as he feared that he would surely be exposed if or when Jidenna regains his memory. He had not known that Jidenna had survived that night and had thought that his secret was hidden. Anyway, he was found and apprehended by the police a month later in a small village where he was hiding. He confessed to the crime of attempting to kill Jidenna and was jailed for attempted murder. Jidenna reunited with Obianuju and their son Nkem, and they lived happily ever after. The end. Hello, lovelies. It's been a while, right? I apologize for my epileptic posting and pledge to be better. So please share my videos, like and comment to encourage me. And if this is your first time coming to my channel, please do not leave without subscribing. I'll see you soon in my next video as I promise to keep posting regularly now. Bye.